Starship, one of the most powerful rockets ever made, has executed 3 flight tests, getting with each of them closer to its goal to send humans to Mars. Watching this rocket soar through the sky was an exhilarating experience, even when watching it through the computer at home. SpaceX made considerable progress with each attempt, and the wait in between was incredibly short. Weeks before the first launch, Elon Musk, the founder, CEO, and CTO of SpaceX, announced that the first flight of this fully integrated Starship and Super Heavy rocket will be an exciting launch, and he delivered. Although the rocket had to demonstrate it could achieve many objectives, the main goal of the first flight test was just to clear the launch pad. The rocket successfully lifted off at 8:33 a.m. Central Time from Starbase in Boca Chica, Texas, but experienced multiple engines out, reducing power and resulting in altitude loss. It started to tumble, so the flight system commanded termination of the booster and Starship just a few minutes after takeoff, when it was about 39 kilometers over the Gulf of Mexico. Regardless of the loss of the vehicle, the flight itself was a success. It allowed SpaceX to gather information that will help improve future flights. As they said, with each test like this, success comes from what we learn, and we learn tremendous amount about the vehicle and the ground systems today. On this flight, they also learned how the launch pad worked. Although not all the 33 first stage Raptor engines ignited during the first liftoff and delivered the full 16.5 million pounds of thrust, without a structure to deflect the exhaust plume away from the pad, Starship blasted out a big crater beneath the pad and sent chunks of concrete and other debris high into the Texas sky. This was not a mistake, but a deliberate decision made by the SpaceX, which decided not to dig a flame trench, but rather build a massive water-cooled steel plate to go under the launch mount. Although the steel plate was not ready for the first launch, SpaceX still decided to go ahead, figuring out that the underlying fondant, which is a special heat-resistant type of concrete, of the orbit mount could survive the liftoff. The second flight test went even further, providing invaluable amount of data to continue with the Starship rapid development. In this test, all 33 Raptor engines of the Super Heavy booster started up successfully and for the first time completed a full duration burn during ascent. Also in this flight, the booster successfully powered down all by 3 Super Heavy Raptor engines, and the second stage successfully ignited 6 Raptor engines before separating. This is the first time this hot stage separation technique was done successfully with a vehicle of this size, and it was the test flight primary goal. Following separation, the Super Heavy booster successfully completed its flip maneuvers and initiated the boost back burn. 30 seconds after, at an altitude of about 90 kilometers over the Gulf of Mexico, it experienced an exciting end to its journey, what SpaceX calls RUD, or Rapid Unscheduled Disassembly, a blow up in layman terms. Later, SpaceX determined that it resulted from a filter blockage of a liquid oxygen line that supplied the engines. The second stage, also known as a Starship, continued climbing to an altitude of about 150 kilometers at a velocity of 24,000 kilometers per hour, becoming the first Starship to reach outer space and nearly completing its full duration burn. Near the end of the second stage burn, before the engine cut off, there was a planned venting of liquid oxygen, which was brought in excess to simulate the needs of future payloads. While performing the activity, a bulb leak caused fires that ended up shooting down the 6 Raptor engines and prevented the Starship from reaching the expected altitude. This resulted in a mission violation, which was detected by the Autonomous Flight Safety System and triggered a safe command for flight termination, or RUD. This time, the test flight lasted more than 8 minutes. During takeoff, SpaceX also tested the launch pad, water-cooled flame deflector, and other upgrades. These performed as expected, require minimal post-launch work on the pad and making it ready almost immediately for upcoming vehicle tests. The third flight test accomplished several major milestones and first-time events, gathering important telemetry that included information about the heat shield during re-entry and how the vehicle performed. The liftoff was at 8:25 a.m. Central Time, and for the second time, all 33 Raptor engines on the Super Heavy booster started successfully and completed a full duration burn during ascent. The Starship executed its second successful hot stage separation, followed by a successful flip maneuver and full boost back burn on the Super Heavy booster that sent it toward its splashdown point in the Gulf of Mexico. It also successfully lit a few engines for its first ever landing burn before the vehicle experienced a rout. The booster's flight concluded at approximately 462 meters of altitude and just under 7 minutes into the mission. In the meantime, 6 Raptor engines powered the Starship to its expected orbit. This orbit actually was on a steep trajectory to ultimately bring down the vehicle in the Indian Ocean, whatever the outcome of the mission was. Just as the engines cut off after reaching the desired orbit, the cameras on board provided a view of the aft of the vehicle alongside the wedge of the view of the Earth. For about 30 minutes of its flight, Starship only transmitted telemetry via the Tidra satellite system, and we had no view of the vehicle. However, the telemetry was essential to communicate the start and successful completion of several of the flight's additional objectives, which included the opening and closing of the payload door, aka the PES dispenser, and also initiating a propellant transfer demonstration. Starship did not attempt a plan on orbit relied on a single Raptor engine due to a vehicle roll rates during coast. This test intended to demonstrate the capability, but it was not part of the deorbit burn. After about 46 minutes of its flight, Starship went on to experience its first ever entry from space, providing valuable data on the heating of the vehicle and control during entry. For about 2.5 minutes, Starlink terminals operating on Starship made it possible to have a view of the hot plasma field building up around the vehicle as it started to enter into the atmosphere. As stated by the SpaceX team, the Starlink and Tidra's data were crucial to the success of the test because the data provided is needed to improve on future flights. This time, the conclusion of the flight test came during re-entry, with the last telemetry signal received at approximately 49 minutes into the flight. Because SpaceX did not intend to recover any of the hardware, the accomplished milestones made this test a complete success. And as we speak, SpaceX is getting ready for the next test flight. With boosters and Starships already built, the next launch could happen anytime now. This rapid iterative development approach is the basis of SpaceX's major innovative advancements, including Falcon Dragon and Starlink. Starship, which is SpaceX's fully reusable transportation system capable of carrying crew and cargo to Earth orbit, the Moon, and ultimately travel to Mars, will soon be available for spectacular space flights that up to now were only possible in the movies.